Welcome to Alyvix. Today we'll explore a real-world case of visual monitoring for a regional government's web portal. I'll also interview the builder of the Alyvix test case to see what we can learn. Let's get started.
Hi, I'm Charles, technical writer here at Alyvix. Private companies aren't the only organizations that need web services. Governments are also fully on board with both internal and public services over the internet. And governments, regardless of how local they are, need their employees distributed across their territory to have fast access to necessary services, as well as guarantee the privacy of their citizens. Because these services depend on networks, they can be slowed down or blocked by network problems. But how can you tell when any one of these hundreds or thousands of services go down? Even several people can't constantly check that all those services are working, but an army of software robots can. Here's just such a bot checking that a single service is running by clicking on and typing in the application's interface just like a person does. Now, imagine this bot running not just once a day, but hundreds of times a day. And then lots of other bots also running hundreds of times a day. Together, continuously checking that all those web services are working properly. And if the bots can use those web services without problems, that means your users can too. This visual approach to monitoring is called automated assessment, and it works from the user's point of view rather than looking at hardware parameters. Building a visual monitoring check like this one is what my colleague here, Gabriele Cecco, does. So Gabriele, say you're ready to begin building a new check like this. What's the first step?
Hi Charles. Well, protecting privacy is very important. So the first task is usually to log in with credentials, but in a way where they can't easily be stolen.
Okay, let's look at a quick example. Can you explain what we're seeing?
Sure. So, this is the login page of a web portal for a local government. It has two text fields for typing in the username and the password and a button to start the login. Alyvix has to type the credentials into the text fields, but they shouldn't be visible or stored in a file where they can be discovered. The solution is to use Alyvix to create a publicly visible key where it doesn't matter if someone steals it because you also need a private key that they don't have. Then you give the public keys to Alyvix as if they were the real credentials, and Alyvix decrypts them with its private key when the test case runs.
Okay, here's another example at basically the same point in the test case that you told me was a bit tricky.
Exactly. So we told Alyvix what the credentials are, and now we want to show Alyvix where to type them in. It looks like a pretty easy task, but if you run the test case the way you see it here, the login doesn't work and the test case fails. The problem is basically that this is a web portal, so it's built using HTML and CSS. The people who implemented this login page added a dynamic CSS effect that makes these text boxes taller when they are clicked on. So, the first time I added a selection for the text boxes and used the default region of interest around them. When that didn't work, I looked at the error page to see the differences between the earlier screen grab I used in the test case and the actual screen that Alyvix saw during the run. If you look, you'll see that some of the selections are marked as matched, while one is marked with an exclamation mark. That's the one you should look at carefully, because it tells you where Alyvix couldn't make a match. Comparing them, I saw that the text box was larger than expected. That means the default region of interest now wasn't large enough to include the text boxes and button because they had been pushed farther down. As soon as I extended the region of interest downward, then the test case worked just as intended to.
So, you needed to take into account not just the initial screen grab that Alyvix captures, but also any changes that your clicks cause in a dynamic environment?
Exactly. And once I did that, it was basically smooth sailing until the end. The rest of this test case is pretty simple. You can see it only has 8 steps. The task is to log in, click a few times to check that a single page is available with a certain amount of time, and then log out again. Once you build a test case, you can run it once to see whether the test case ran successfully from beginning to end, and see how long each step took. Then you can run the test case continuously as a bot, once every few minutes, all day long, collecting the results to see whether your application are currently running faster or slower than normal. And when it's slower, which steps is the one causing problems for your users.
So maybe you can tell us something more general beyond building this one particular test case. Why does a government agency like this decide that visual monitoring is the right approach for them?
Well, standard monitoring returns metrics like whether a hard drive is almost full, what the network throughput is, or if CPU load is high. But it's not directly measuring what users see when they are sitting in front of their computer. But a web app can be down for many reasons. For example, if a remote or cloud service, it depends on, is down. Sometimes a monitoring system thinks there is no problem, where there actually is one, because if nobody can use their application, then the CPU won't be busy, and so the monitoring system doesn't raise an alert. The beauty of visual monitoring is that it sees exactly what a regular user sees, so you don't have to guess or interpret a bunch of numbers. It tells you right away whether or not people are able to do their jobs, often before they can notice there is a problem themselves.
Thanks, Gabriele, for giving us an insider's view on how you build test cases. It's good to know that Alyvix can encrypt credentials to protect users, and is so robust when an interface has unexpected behavior.
Don't forget, you can check out the Alyvix website, blog, and user guide at these links. And be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the bell to be notified when we post new videos. And of course, we read all the comments you post below.